was the launch of the Project 100 initiative on Thursday in Abuja. In a welcome address by the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Folashade Yemieson stated that the initiative was conceived by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and it is being run by the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board under the leadership of Engineer Simbi Wabote, to support budding oil and gas indigenous companies to grow them into big industry players.
The Honorable Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Dr. Emmanuel Ibe Kachuku, the Executive Secretary NCDMB, directors and all other heads of agencies in the ministry, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's with pleasure that I welcome you all to this launch of one of the flagship programs of the Ministry of Petroleum Resources that is being run by the NCDMB, the Project 100. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to state that this is a novel idea that was conceived by the Honorable Minister of State himself as a strategic capacity development program to raise small-scale entrepreneurs to medium and eventually large-scale entrepreneurs. Just as the project title suggests, the aim is to identify 100 indigenous companies in the oil and gas sector and provide them with the requisite institutional support to grow their businesses with a view to increasing their participation in the sectoral operations and by implication contributing meaningfully to the overall development of the industry. In more concise terms, the ultimate objective is to see these budding entrepreneurs grow to become bigger and more significant industry players.
Capacity building is the forte of the board. We have strategies in place for human capacity development. We are currently looking at how to further deploy the Nigerian Content Development Fund for technical training, leadership training, and vocational training of those beneficiaries of Project 100. And the reason for that, and the reason why capacity building came out tops, is not surprising to me. Because what I see is that most of these companies, Nigerian companies, when they struggle to get a job from the oil and gas industry, they go to the banks, they get loan at cutthroat interest rates. Their focus is not to build the capacity of their staff. Most of their focus is how to deliver that project, pay back their interest, and make profit out of it. True or false?
These were the reassuring words to indigenous oil and gas companies by the Executive Secretary of the NCDMB, Engineer Simbi Wabote, on Thursday in Abuja at the launch of an initiative called Project 100, which is geared towards enhancing capacities and supporting indigenous oil and gas companies and entrepreneurs financially through the NCIF fund to become big industry players in Nigeria and the global stage. Engineer Simbi Wabote took time out to reveal more reasons why the launch is important at the occasion.
So you ask yourself, these people also contribute 1% to NCDMB. How do you then deploy this 1% to support them in terms of capacity building? So part of the strategy is that we will come to your companies, we will take your staff, develop relevant technical, leadership, and vocational training that NCDMB will sponsor them because you have paid for them in order to train your staff while you focus on paying back your loan and making your profit.
Government functionaries present were the Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources, Dr. Ibe Kachuku, who conceptualized the idea to support the oil and gas companies who are contributors to the NCIF fund, Engineer Simbi Wabote, the Executive Secretary of the NCDMB, the Permanent Secretary, and CEOs of parastatals under the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. The minister gave a moving remark and also emphasized the need for the preservation of the true Nigerian spirit.
I'm going to just make a few points on 4 categories. The first will be what is the logic for this? The logic for this is my unabated belief in the Nigerian nation and Nigerian people. No matter what we say, no matter the difficulties we go through, the reality is that there's no nation in the world, as far as I'm concerned, and I've been to every nation in this world, there's no nation in the world where you have people so privileged, so opportune, so skilled, so determined, so self-believing in their ability to be the very best in the world. And if we would just provide the enabling circumstances, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't lead the world. I'm not talking about leading Africa. Leading Africa is an old dream. It's about leading the world. Because from every facet of our growth process, and God has been kind to me. I've had the privilege of crisscrossing various career layers. At one point, I was the top journalist publishing magazines, and some of the best-selling magazines in this country. I've worked as a lawyer, continue to work as a lawyer. I've worked as an administrator. I've worked in showbiz. I was head of a band and played music for very many years as a child film band. I worked in acting movies, and quite frankly can take credit for being one of those who brought up Nollywood in this country. The first 3 or 4 movies in this country were shot by my entities. At every stage of life that you go through, one of the things that keeps you going is Nigerians. Nigerians believe so much in themselves, and if there's any that sets us apart from the rest of the African nations, it is the self-belief that we can make things happen. Nothing must kill that spirit. That spirit must continue, and all of us have a collective responsibility to ensure that we nurture that spirit, not just among those of us of this like age, but quite frankly, the younger ones who are now coming. And I think we've borrowed that from our founding fathers who fought for independence, and that energy must continue. That energy must be founded on unity, on collaboration, on brotherhood, and on respect for the fundamental rights of every Nigerian citizen. This is what the Project 100 is founded on, the logic that Nigerians have a capacity to lead this industry, to build the best FPSOs, to build the best platforms, to build the best gas plants, to run the best banks, to run the best communication companies, to produce made-in-Nigeria cars, to go to the moon soon, to fly Nigerian planes. It's the belief that we can do it all. That's the logic of Project 100. And so we're sitting in Houston. I just said to myself, every year, Nigerians come here, we have the technology conference, people are showing new technologies. But out there in Nigeria, you have budding people who, with very little, are able to make companies excel. If you look at the typical Nigerian entrepreneur, how he starts, very little capital, just self-belief, working day and night, coming to Abuja 50, 100 times a year, which he shouldn't, knocking on people's door, kneeling where you have to kneel, begging where you have to beg, and eventually they carve it out and they make it work. There's nowhere in the world people go through the kind of difficulties they go through in Nigeria to make a success. And if we have that capacity, I felt that the logic was that we needed to go back home. And so I left Houston that year. I said to them, this was my last attendance of OTC because I'm wasting my time here. So we're going to start the conference that we started. And I said, I'm taking along with that an announcement that we're going to do Project 100. And ever since then, the people have said to me, whatever happened to that dream? I say, it's still in works. Because I realized when I came back that it is wanting to have a dream. It is wanting to actualize it. And I called a couple of my lieutenants and I said, we must actualize Project 100 if that's the last thing we do. We've had so much to do in 3 years. But they kept working in the burners and the silos. And today I'm happy to see that finally we put teeth to where our mouth was. So congratulations, Simbi, congratulations, Johnson, congratulations, everybody here, especially the PAMSEC, who has also worked very hard on this. Congratulations to all of you. But more important, congratulations to you Nigerians, who despite all the difficulties every day continue to dream. You need to keep dreaming. Dreaming, quite frankly, is all there is to life. Once you lose the hope and the dream, life is finished. And coincidentally, late last year, I then got invited to the US, where I was given honorary citizenship of Georgia and Carolina. And then was invited by the 100 Club, by some sheer coincidence, which is 100 Black American Club. And that is a club that houses all basically the most successful 100 Black Americans. And it's like a Fortune 500 thing. You get into it and you get out of it depending on what contributions you made. And I was invited to be one of the honorary patrons in the US. And that even propelled me more. And I think Simbi was in that ceremony, if I'm not mistaken. And they had a plaque, not this one. And funny enough, trusting Simbi for his creativity, he came to me after they put it on me and he said, can I just take that? I need that 100 design. And so this is what is made out of it. Congratulations, So and so it's been a sort of a very lovely journey coming here. So those are the logic. The expectations is that because I believe so much in you, and you believe so much in yourself, that working together, nation and people, we can deliver the sort of results that have been enunciated here today. Great work. Fight to be the very best, to get the very best contracts in this sector because you're entitled to it. It's not a privilege, it's not a favor, it is your right. Deliver the best quality work results so that those who give you the opportunities will be able to go home and feel very happy. And this, like Udom said, this is something we've done so much for long. He and I worked in ExxonMobil, working together, and critical interventions in local places, in the home territories and in the resource ownership territories were very critical for both of us. And so I'm happy that rather than the Chairman, Chief Executive come today, he sent Udom because he will relate more to this because we've had dialogues over the years on this. But it is absolutely important in those expectations that there's also discipline, fiscal discipline. Don't spend the money that you need for business to live luxury lifestyles. Remember, you need to grow a name. The builders of Hyundai and the rest you see didn't start out by consuming money meant for capital for the business, for living, for marrying wives and getting chieftaincy titles. So focus on the business. Focus on making it grow, because if you wear this plaque, it must be that you present some of the best governance rules, some of the best performance indexes, some of the best quality people can find, and that you aspire to be the very best in whatever sector that you do. So, and this is going to continue to grow. We've been able to select 60. Obviously, we said 100. It's not going to stop at 100. It's just a nomenclature. Hopefully, we can get more Nigerian companies. But like Simbi says, even if all we do is build 10 Korean-sized firms from these 60, we would have achieved more than we need to. And bear in mind that if you look at the history of Dangote, it started as this. So there's nothing special about it. You just have to reach out.
The Executive Secretary also gave a summary of how the journey to the launch is and how transparent the process of selection was for the board.
I guess most of us will not know how this journey started. As usual, the journey started with the Minister of Petroleum Resources giving a charge 2 years ago at OTC in Houston, when he challenged the ministry to say, why can't we grow companies in Nigeria and take them to a lofty height where they can deliver services without any encumbrances, without hitches. And he wanted to see that. And after that charge, I was opportune to travel to Korea during the Egina project when I went to supervise it. And while I was in the hotel, I started reading the history of Samsung, how it came about, and HHI, and other Korean companies. And after reading that piece, it immediately clicked to say, this is something that is doable. And I'm sure the minister has seen this vision and have decided to charge us to push forward with it. And I think NCDMB took the responsibility to say, okay, let's see how we make this happen. Quite rightly so, it fell into our remit as a Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board. Our mandate is not about, we are not a police organization. It's not just about monitoring. It's about the development bit. And since I took on this mantle, I have struggled to say, what do we do about the development bit? And for me, this project is smack on that. So I'm delighted to be here on this special occasion of the official launch of Project 100, which credit I give squarely to the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources. It's his own idea. And most often than not, I avoid having meetings with him, because anytime I go for those meetings, the ideas pop up. And by virtue of my training, once those ideas are on the table, you must look for a way to crystallize them, because that's what executives do. They drop the idea and they give to people who work with them to run with. If you're not able to deliver it, then you begin to ask yourself, why are you there? Of course, this is another important milestone in our journey to entrench local content practice in the oil and gas industry. First and foremost, like I said, I applaud the minister to recognize the resilience of indigenous oil and gas service providers and help accelerate the growth of indigenous medium-scale oil and gas companies into large-scale businesses. I thank you, sir, for the confidence reposed on NCDMB to take on the lead to midwife this project to this point. I also want to commend KPMG for the professionalism they have brought into the process, leading to the selection of the Project 100 beneficiaries today. I must say, nobody called me, nobody called the permanent secretary. I didn't speak to any of the beneficiaries here today. In keeping with my strategy, when they send me emails to say, I don't understand this, I say, talk to the project owners. They will deal with it. From the concept development to the identification of companies to the final selection of the Project 100 beneficiaries, the team made up of competent staff from the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. I give credit to Engineer Johnson. He was indeed pushing very hard from the ministry to make this happen. NCDMB and also KPMG demonstrated exceptional integrity and transparency in the delivery of this task. The selection process and the areas of business needs highlighted by the Project 100 beneficiaries revealed some interesting facts, which I want to briefly comment upon. Although we currently have over 8,000 service companies registered on our NOGIC JQS portal, 8,000 service companies, the Project 100 selection process revealed that we have only 2,527 active companies. And this is what happens in every database that you have. Most of the time, people just register and they walk away. They don't update. They just feel it's one of those things that I just have to be there. But this process has shown that on our own portal, you must be active to survive on it. Application of the multi-stage evaluation criteria brought the numbers to this batch of beneficiaries. The key points that stood out include the importance of upload of quality data onto the NOGIC JQS platform by service companies. It is also evident there is need to demonstrate compliance with Nigerian content requirements as well as other federal government requirements as a business person in this country. Some of the service companies would have been part of this event today could not make it to this stage due to poor quality of data upload, infractions committed against provisions of the Act, and or due to other lackadaisical attitude in the submission of applications within the 2 weeks time frame. One thing I have also noticed is that Nigerians are very good at lastminute.com. So it is not usual with Nigerians. Any time you give them, until when the deadline is there, that's when people make effort. And then the next thing, they call for extension of time. Even if you give that extension, you will have the same problem, I bet you. There were last-minute efforts by some of the service providers to clean up data or plea for extension of submission deadline. But we were clear that we will not alter the laid-down criteria to maintain the integrity of the process. I therefore commend those of you selected for taking care of the quality of data you did upload onto our platform, for complying with the Nigerian content requirements, and for submitting your comprehensive applications within the time allotted. I believe these are signs of quality management systems that drive your business dealings, and this will surely propel you into greater heights. I hope other companies will learn a thing or two from this and ensure that all their information on the NOGIC JQS portal is accurate and credible. In fact, based on the revelation from the Project 100 selection process, we have included the drive for quality data on the NOGIC JQS as part of the 2019 scorecard of NCDMB. We will latch on to the renewed active interest shown by our stakeholders in the portal to correct information and weed off redundant data. Quite a number of top business needs areas were highlighted by the beneficiaries, and I'm sure KPMG has highlighted this. These needs can largely be grouped into financial and non-financial. The data reveals that 80% of the interventions required by the Project 100 beneficiaries are non-financial. These business needs areas are on capacity building, access to market, business insight, and policy intervention. Although this is somewhat contrary to popular belief that access to finance ranks topmost when it comes to key support required by business outfits. But even that, we are ready to tackle.
The Executive Secretary debunked fake news that alleged that the price to apply on the portal is too high. He categorically debunked the fake news and reiterated that the NCDMB NOGIC JQS portal is free.
The portal is free. Nobody pays any dime to register on the portal. I read in the papers today in one forum in Lagos, ICT forum or so, where somebody said the cost of registering on NOGIC JQS is too high. This is how social media and misinformation spreads. I don't think any of the 60 beneficiaries or anybody on that portal ever paid a dime. Why should you pay a dime when you are paying 1%? What is it meant for? So, free portal, we have.
He went further to hint on other plans to continue to assist such indigenous companies financially in the near future.
Although this is somewhat contrary to popular belief that access to finance ranks topmost when it comes to key support required by business outfits. But even that, we are ready to tackle. We started the process about a year plus ago with the Bank of Industry, and when we launched that $200 million scheme, we said that is the first phase of our strategy to support small and medium enterprise within the oil and gas sector. Out of this, we are already finalizing another financing model that will take these businesses and solve their financial challenges, because we have also learned a lot. We have also learned a lot in dealing with BOI and enabling businesses to access the loan that BOI is managing for us. But within the next couple of months, we will launch another financing scheme that will perhaps solve all the bottlenecks that we see today with the BOI. And these selected companies will be our main focus areas and beneficiaries of this financial model. Needed for businesses before financial considerations. I am happy to note that subsequent to the launch of this initiative today, the monitoring and evaluation framework will kick in. Based on the directive of the Honorable Minister of State, the Project Management Office of this Project 100 will be domiciled in NCDMB. There are 5 buckets that the PMO will focus on. Intervention strategy. 1, to manage the ongoing process and refinement of the Project 100 strategy. 2, beneficiary management, to manage the selection, acceleration, and graduation process of Project 100 beneficiaries. 3, intervention management, to manage the implementation of interventions, plans from the various targeted beneficiaries. 4, insights, to develop fact-based documentation of performance of Project 100 interventions. At this point, it's also important on the 7th item, which is stakeholder management. I had a quick brief with the GMD of NMPC some time ago to intimate him of a Project 100, because I said it is NMPC and NCDMB as well as NAPIMS working together that will ensure the success of Project 100 in the oil and gas sector. Because NMPC, of course, manages the oil and gas sector, and they are the ones who do it on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. So if you don't have them, it is difficult to succeed. And I can assure you that I had the tacit support from the GMD and his team on this project. So on stakeholder management is to manage wide relationships and partnerships with public and private sector entities that support the delivery of Project 100 initiatives and interventions. Specific to the identified Project 100 interventions, the board already has initiated in place to provide support in the area of access to finance that I talked about. For the non-financial interventions, the board will initiate or progress targeted interventions as follows. Policy interventions. The board shall focus on incentives stipulated in the Act. We will also liaise with the Nigerian Investment Promotion Council to ensure that initiatives in place are keyed into as are applicable. It will be recalled that only recently we secured approval for custom duty waiver for the shipment of Walter Smith modular refinery equipment. These are some of the kind of interventions. So today, anybody who wants to build modular refinery have that waiver to use in order to build modular refineries. So these are some of the interventions that will come to play in terms of the policy. On access to market, we're already in talks with other sister agencies, NMPC and NAPIMS, to secure their support in this regard. The executive orders 003 and 005 are also veritable tools that can be utilized to enhance patronage of the Project 100 beneficiaries.
60 indigenous companies emerged as beneficiaries after a transparent selection from the NCDMB Logic JQS portal with the assistance of KPMG. Beneficiaries took time out to express their gratitude and remarks about the Project 100 initiative.
We really appreciate the support we are getting with this initiative, and we look forward to providing our professional service and service companies over the years. We have various expectations, basically, as companies. With various ambition and visions, I believe we all have, in terms of providing excellent service delivery to our various clients across board. This initiative will help us enhance our capacity to deliver improved services by granting us support through probably the Nigerian Content Development Fund, NCDMB would also assist, like the gentlemen previously have all stated, assisting us with better job opportunities and training our staff. Basically, capacity building has always been our vision. I believe most of the companies here all fall in the same line of thought. For us, ambition is one thing, is also the ability to achieve what your targets, the set targets are, is also another. We look forward to working closely with MPD, with this medium to achieve this. In terms of our commitments, we believe in the vision of the P100 project, creating more job opportunities within our area of operations. We should be able to introduce novel technologies within our respective fields to optimize service delivery to our clients. CSR is also key to us as companies, and we believe if we have the means to move ahead as companies, we should be able to lay impact in our respective environments. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
You can have all the buildings, you can have everything, but if you don't have the right human being, the right caliber of personnel to put all these resources together, you're just wasting your time. And I think this is a good thing from NCDMB. It's very nice.
Because we can't really afford to hire, very expensive multinational trained people. We have to take the graduates that are on the market, and a lot of them don't have that deep knowledge of how to run a business and how to deliver technically sort of high quality work. So we asked for that. We asked for access to land, because that's one thing. A lot of the banks, when you go to ask them for support for machinery, they will ask you, where's your land? And as a woman, it's not easy to get land. When you write, the states don't give you, they want you to buy on the open market. By the time you're buying on the open market already, your cost profile is high. So these are some of the things that we've requested, because I think when you have a job and you have the infrastructure, it's easier.
Minister didn't take all the praise of the success of the ministry, but took time out to appreciate his CEOs under his leadership in different agencies of the ministry.
If I did not recognize that the first starting point is to respect those who run the organizations and work with them as their support base, I will start with the permanent secretary, whom I think is probably the most audacious and worked permanent secretary in Nigeria. Madam, please stand up and just take a bow. I don't praise her enough, but really we should. Because public office is tough, and if you find people like this who can come through them and go through the funnel and succeed, you need to recognize them. I'm sure she receives, I have a policy of not having memos on my table more than 24 hours. And I know the previous pharmacist before her always came to me and said, what's the speed? And said, the speed is 4 years. You don't have time. You've got to hurry up. So I don't take anything that is left in my office I take home, but you can't see the next day on my table. What it means is that a lot gets back to her table. So if she doesn't work at that same pace, then she'll have a problem coping with the files. So I'm sure sometimes when I go on foreign travel, she celebrates, but then when I come back, there's a big pile and she pays the price. So join me in thanking her for all the good work that she does. Organizing the conference that we did over the last 1 week was an immense amount of work. Now you take NCDMB, absolute must. If you look at some of the things that they've done over the last 3 years, NCDMB, I've always said, is one entity in government that has been lucky to have executive secretaries that were very good. But SINBI is in a different class altogether. He's taken it and he's run with it. And we have these intellectual conversations all the time. We come from the same industry. He was ex-Shell and ex-Mobil. And so we can afford to open-heartedly discuss without feeling that you're offending your boss. And every time he comes to my office, truly, there's a new initiative we're talking about, because we're in a hurry to pump out these initiatives. And so when he started, and he came to see me the first time, I said, the thing you need to do for me is not just to do the traditional NCDMB slots, monitoring oil companies, making sure that they comply on this or that. Help me practicalize local content. How do I go in and intervene? How do you do packs? How do you find funding? How do you take investment in some of this? How do you experience the pain of the investors so that you know how the policies will work? He's delivered on literally most of them. And I thank him very much for seeing that vision. You take NMPC, McCarthy is not here today, but Bello worked with me as STA when I was Group Managing Director, and later became obviously the GED and NCOS for upstream. And he knew how that one of the policies we had in the office then was that we didn't have a back executive office. We had a table, and it was an open room, and it was a crisis room because we came in with shortages in petroleum products, production at 800,000, OPEC pricing down to its lowest level, $25 a barrel. We just were crisis managers, and we slept in that office. But NMPC was the guinea pig for the things that I wanted to do. NMPC probably took the biggest brunt of my crushing movement because I was seated in their office. And I'm sure there were times they wished I was somewhere else. I did come to the ES for PTDF to say, I love this office so that I could move. And he said, no, I think I'd like you to remember where you are, So, but again, if you look at the things that they've done over these times, the AKK pipeline that is something after my heart, which they're accomplishing. The fact that on Saturday the president will be spotting some wells in Gombe as part of the regional movement to find oil in every part of Nigeria. And all the things that we've done, fuel sufficiency all through the Christmas, thank God nobody called me up in the middle of the night. We're a work in progress, but they're doing quite a lot.
Why Project 100?
Well, it's to build capacity of Nigerians. We've been in oil exploration and production and distribution for over 60 years. And you're still finding that some of the real benefits in there are still, quite frankly, monopolized by foreign operated companies, as it were, whether it be service companies or engineering companies. And yet there are a lot of Nigerian companies that are emerging. Opportunities working with NCDMB has been expanding. Now we thought the time had come to try and build what you might call the next Korea inputs. Let's find those Nigerian companies that we can help through financing, through support, through business opportunities, through helping them to grow, like you heard, their own independent capacities, train their people, to make them begin to move on to the next level. So at some point very soon, we'll be able to look oil companies in the face and say, look, there's really no need to give jobs out to anybody other than Nigerian companies. And people can begin to aspire to some of those excellence. It is the belief in the Nigerian people, belief in the Nigerian system.
How soon are we going to see the other 40 people, the potential beneficiaries?
Well, the term 100 is just a nomenclature. It's basically a way of saying that we definitely have more than 100 companies that can do this. It may turn out to be 200. It may turn out to be 1,000. So the 100 is not just in terms of it must be only 100 companies. Because if NCDMB ends up finding 200 companies, they're not going to say because we separate your 100. It remains so it's just a nomenclature. How much is it going to cost? I don't know. NCDMB is going to house this now. When you say cost, it's not like we're going to be paying money to grow the companies. They already have their capital structure, they have their finance, and we will support in areas where they're doing critical projects that they need a bit of input for us to help them with. And working with various governments, we'll look at assessing all the executive other advantages that have been issued. We'll look at assessing special privilege in terms of import duty waivers and things like that. So it will depend on projects, it will depend on each company. You can't put a number really to it.
Okay, so in terms of monetary value to the economy, how much is this going to bring back to us, considering that we have experts who are taking over a job and this kind of initiative is going to stop that? So if you have to put value on it, how much is this going to bring back?
I won't put a number because I have not done an analysis that shows me what. But it is clear that if you grow from, take the independent producers for example, if you grow independent production from 10-12% contribution to say about 40%, that number is clearly in excess of 30 or 40 billion. If you grow local engineering from current about 25% to maybe about 60-something%, you can put numbers to those. So it's multi-billion in terms of savings for the economy, numerical in terms of the amount of work that you can create for Nigerians. But more important, it's a defining momentum. It's basically saying we believe we are now at a point where we can take leadership of the industry. That's what it's saying. So that defining philosophy is even more important than the numbers you attach to that philosophy.
Thank you. This is the next level of growth
coming into the oil and gas industry from this government?
I want to believe it is. It wasn't patterned after that, so it's not a political issue. But the reality is that what NCDMB and myself are saying is that we need to move on to that next level, not just the level of providing support, but taking leadership and taking ownership. We're basically saying it is time for Nigeria to get up and move.
Is there a way you're going to monitor the rates at which employment is boosted through the project 100 beneficiaries?
If so, one of the things we did today was that we didn't just launch something and leave it in the air. We put it under an agency whose regulatory responsibility anyway is to grow local content. This is no different from some of the things that they're doing. It's just that it's now a much more focused thing. So they will be monitoring. He had his NCDMB give you 5 cardinal pivotal intervention points, and one of that was monitoring, in terms of monitoring how they perform, what benefits they get, what employments they generate. So that's resident in there. Thank you.
Analysts and stakeholders hope this newly launched idea will boost job creation, grow indigenous oil and gas companies into becoming major industry players, even on the global stage, all things being equal. Toyin Ajolore, On Duty TV News.